allowing your customer to be a fly on the wall of those valuable conversations gives them an authentic vision into how your company operates and your level of knowledge, the moral of the company. That's something that advertising can't do. Podcasting is one of the many ways to create tons of content without actually having to think about creating content. You just talk about what you know and let your clients hear it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host today, and we have in the studio Lee Judge. How are you today, sir?
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you, Rick.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Folks, before we get into it, don't forget to hit the bell, subscribe, and make sure you get all the updates as we drop them. We drop just a new episode every other Thursday, so be on that list. So Lee, let's jump into it. Let's get to it. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. So Lee, first question, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Where you come from? All that good stuff.
All right. Well, Lee Judge. So I'm the founder and CMO of Content Monsta. Content Monsta is a business where we create content for businesses, primarily B2B, but we also have some B2C. Our goal is to help every company become a media company. We are founded in marketing and media, which is kind of what our secret sauce was. When I founded the company, my background was officially, I had two backgrounds. One was in media. My actual degrees were in media and broadcasting. I did some radio and stuff back in the day, but also had a long career in marketing as well. So at some point when this term digital marketing came along, I was already a data geek. I was already, heavily into marketing, but I had this background in media. So I was able to bring those two together. And when I was a marketing director at a company, I, had to hire agencies to do certain things. And I didn't always like how agencies didn't necessarily understand both sides. Like they didn't understand how to create the content. Either they may have known the content, but didn't know the marketing, or they might have known the marketing part and didn't understand the content. So I set out to create an agency that could do both and understand both. So Content Monsta were full, consultants for marketing on top of being that media producer for our clients. So in a nutshell, that's the company. That's me. I'm all about, B2B marketing. I'm all about creativity and bringing those two things together in Content Monsta.
Cool. I love it. Just to clarify for me, let's say, give me those two buckets. You talked about content, you talked about marketing as they were two different things. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So if I look at my marketing career, it came from, working alongside with sales to move the bottom line with marketing. And that came from understanding, how can marketing actually influence sales? How can marketing provide the right information at the right time to prospects for them to learn about the company, grow an affinity for the company? How can we generate leads for the company? It really has to tie into sales. It really has to be measurable. It is a key function for any company to have their marketing and to have that marketing aligned with sales. So that's one part of it. I mean, I came into it from a data side. I've built databases and CRMs for companies, and that helped me understand the sales part of why am I even marketing to people? I want to get them interested. I want to get them into our database.
Yes.
So that's where my understanding of the database and the sales part came from. So along with that comes analytics and automation. And so, I was a Salesforce admin. I was a Marketo admin, a Pardot admin, HubSpot admin. So all that marketing automation comes together on the marketing side of things. Now on the creative side, which was, my native skill. I've been in broadcasting. I've done radio. I've done tons of production over 25 plus years. It's going to age myself, but lots of production. And so it was only natural to be able to create those things for business. So bringing those two things together allowed me to show the business world, especially right now. Before, my skills in audio and video, when you thought audio and video in the early 2000s or before, you thought, well, it has to be television or it has to be radio.
Yeah.
But then with internet being the center of business now, we can create all those types of content for business. And so it's been a wonderful thing to me to be able to create things not just for entertainment, but for business purposes.
Yeah.
So now we produce podcasts, we produce, talking head videos and interviews for business. And it's my creative outlet, and to be able to hire and work with other creators in Content Monsta allows us to still be creative, but then
Hmm.
at the same time, I'm the marketing consultant to make sure it makes business sense as well.
I love it. I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Tell me about it. Tell us about a cool project that you did. I mean, obviously you don't have to include any names or anything like that, but it sounds like you're doing some pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because we have so many different things that we do, and those things shift with time. In 2019, our goal was to figure out how to do things more remotely,
Hmm.
to get outside of our current markets. And we have producers around, from Atlanta to North Carolina and Florida and California. But when it came to video production, even audio production, in 2019, our thought was, hey, let's go take podcast studios into companies' offices and record their podcast. Or we were doing lots of video shoots, which meant loading up cameras and tripods to go to locations.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, how can we expand beyond the Atlanta market? So we began researching everything remote. How do you do remote video? How do you do remote podcasting at the same level of quality as we did in person? So we did all this research and testing all these platforms through 2019, not knowing that 2020, a pandemic was coming. So
Got a crystal
2020,
ball over
pandemic
there.
hits. Yeah, exactly. Didn't know it was coming, but it was a blessing in disguise for us because we had spent 2019 getting ready to do remote, not knowing we
Uh-huh.
would need to. So I often now
Yes.
repeat the phrase, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So we had stayed ready. And so 2020 came upon us and we canceled a few of the in-person video shoots, but
Hmm.
the remote stuff took off. Um,
Mm.
we began picking up lots of podcast clients because we were able to gather all those executives from around the world to have these
Hmm.
conversations for these companies and create
Hmm.
quality podcasts remotely.
Yeah.
And then we also launched remote video. So now we do remote video shoots. And, to the naked eye, it's hard to tell that we weren't on site for those video shoots. And so that's been the most interesting thing to us is to make that pivot and
Yeah.
figure out, and, quality is really big for us. So we couldn't just do anything. We can't just throw up an iPhone and call it remote video. We had to find a way to make it the same quality or very close to the layman's eye to
Yeah.
look the same quality as on site. And so we pulled it off, and we're still excited to be able to do that and show marketers that you don't have to have the big video shoot, the big crew come into your office.
Yeah.
And so that's been an interesting project for us. We do miss a little bit of the full blown production because we did some
Mhm.
things prior to 2019 where we wrote out full comedic business skits where we'd have a business video, and the challenge was to add humor to it.
Yeah.
And so if you look on our website on contentmaster.com, you'll see a video where we work for a software company and we had to personify their robotic automation. And so we hired an actor to play the robot, the person version of the AI,
Hmm.
and it was really fun writing a script and making it fun and funny,
Yeah.
and doing the in-person shoot. So
Yeah.
we really like doing the creative stuff, but from a business standpoint, it's great that we can provide great service remotely and scale so much more quickly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Why did you guys decide to go B2B? I mean, there's seems like there's a lot. Seems like it's harder. I mean, generally speaking.
Well, for us, it's easier. And I'll tell you why. First of all, my background, my first three corporate jobs were B2B. So I understood the pains of B2B. I understood selling to B2B. I
Hmm.
have an affinity for working business to business. The
Yeah.
other thing is, from a sales standpoint, I like the fact that businesses, including my own or any other business, they plan their budget forward. They
Yeah.
say, okay, we're going to spend X number of dollars on staffing or IT or marketing in our case, and that's planned, then they decide who to do business with.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to B2C, especially smaller B2Cs, it can often be like, here's an idea, let's do it. Can we afford it? As opposed to we already budgeted for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for us, B2C means, working with companies who depend on daily interactions from their customers. So we're business to their customers, their customers. But it depends on those individual interactions. And we do have B2C clients. And I do enjoy working with them because, it's more fast paced. They can go out and sell advertising on top of the podcast we produce for them, which is great. But it has to be a certain level of B2C to be able to do that. And so yeah, B2B, because we know B2B, we know businesses pains. I'm comfortable with B2B. And it's just from a business standpoint, it's more stable doing business with businesses than with individuals.
Cool. I like it. I like it. Good stuff. Good stuff. So why are so many companies like getting into podcasting?
I think they're realizing kind of what I mentioned earlier. Our goal is to make sure every company can become a media company, and podcasting is a way to have conversations. In fact, the best way that I think I visualize this for companies is, wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall when there are two experts speaking, right? So let's say, for example, the CEO and the CTO are having a conversation about their product development or about where they think the industry is going. Wouldn't your customer love to be a fly on the wall to hear that conversation? And if they heard that conversation, they might go, wow, these guys really know their stuff, or this lady, I love the way she's leading her company. I like her and I like her style of leading her company. I want to do business with her. So allowing your customer to be a fly on the wall of those valuable conversations gives them an authentic vision into how your company operates and your level of knowledge, the moral of the company. That's something that advertising can't do. And so I think businesses are understanding that they can have these expert level conversations and allow their clientele or potential customers to hear those conversations. And that's a tremendous value to that potential customer without having to sell them. And so, podcasting is one of the many ways to create tons of content without actually having to think about creating content. You just talk about what you know and let your clients hear it.
Yeah. So that's a big part of what you're doing. Then it sounds like you're producing podcasts and you're, I guess you're coaching people on, what to do with it, essentially the content distribution and all that good stuff. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And the coaching is a new part of it because, we have clients who do their podcasts. We have clients who do video, but oftentimes we learn this. They don't know how to show up on camera or how to sound or what equipment they need or all those kind of things. They think they can just log in like it's a Zoom meeting and show up the same way. That isn't a good perception for your CEO, right? It's a shame when the intern or maybe a 12-year-old can look better on camera today because they thought about how they look on camera than the CEO who can afford everything to look good, but yet, has his I call it witness protection, where he has a bright light behind him and the camera looking up his nose from his laptop and it's all blurry. Executives need to do better. Executives need media training to look like they're an executive. They wouldn't show up to an executive board meeting in a sweatsuit. So why would you show up on camera looking like someone less than professional? So the bar is low. If you know what to do and you have some coaching, the equipment is not the issue. It's knowing what to do and that you need to show up better than just a Zoom face.
Yeah. I have pants on. So
yeah, well, pants are optional, but as long as you look good from the waist up and your camera's not blurry and you're not looking up your nose the whole time, pants are still optional.
I hear you. Outside of those issues, what are five big issues you see podcasters, executives, whomever doing, when they're doing a show?
5 big issues with podcasters, and this is from a business standpoint. So
Mm-hmm.
the first one is measuring the wrong things. You're not going to create a podcast for your business and get Joe Rogan numbers. That's not what it's for. It's to talk to the right people, not, a million wrong people. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first one. Another one would be showing up like you're showing up for a Zoom meeting, right? So the misconception is that if I can hear you and you can hear me, then the audio is good. That's not correct. I mean, I could yell across a field and you could hear me. I could talk through an old telephone. You could hear me, but will you actually listen for 30 minutes if I sound that horrible? So, I've seen executives go, oh, okay, everything sounds good. Let's go. I'm like, no, it doesn't sound good. There's a fan over your head. There's a dog barking, or there's, your mic is 3-4 feet away. I can hear you, but is it pleasant to listen to you for more than 5 minutes? That's the second, probably the biggest, but I'll say that's the second one, is the misunderstanding of what quality does to the listener. The other thing is, I see a third one is not realizing that having those conversations can provide expert level content for your marketing team to use over and over and over. One of my first steps into content marketing was I said, you know what, let me just set up a camera and ask the sales team some questions. They didn't know they didn't think about we're making content. We just asked them, let me ask you some questions. Like, what are some client objectives? Really? How'd you overcome those objectives? Well, I did so and so and so. That was a great piece of content because you have a person telling how they solved the customer's issue. Now, if you said, hey, Jim, come do a commercial on how you solve the customer's pain or issue, he'd freeze up and it'd be horrible content. Instead, have a conversation. Podcasts can do that. Turning a camera on, doing a conversation can do that. Natural conversation. So podcast should not be a burden of, having to show up with a script, which is the fourth thing, scripting. Podcast should not be scripted. You should have an outline. You don't want to be fully, quote unquote, off the cuff, but you still have an outline. It might be off the cuff, but it may even sound off the cuff. But you have an idea. You have an outline of where you want to go. So that's the fourth thing: is have an outline for the conversation, but do not script it. A scripted podcast is one that's not listened to. It just doesn't sound good. That's 4. You challenged me for 5.
I did. Come on. Drums rolling.
Yeah, you did. Drums rolling. Okay. Number 5 would be not realizing that podcasting is content marketing and content marketing is the long game. So you won't launch your podcast this month and see our ROI this month. Pod fade is real for individuals talking about sports, is real for people talking about business. It's still, pod fade is still real. In case listeners don't know, pod fade is the fact that most podcasts don't last past 7 episodes because they get tired and they fade away. The reason for that is often for businesses is because they expect a ROI in a few episodes. And in fact, sometimes they may actually be getting an ROI and not know it, because if you only have, 100 listeners and one of those is your next client, that's your ROI. If you have 10 listeners and out of those 10 listeners, you moved a couple of clients closer to a deal, closer to them trusting you, they may never tell you they heard your podcast. But while they're researching the company, they listen to your podcast, realize you know your stuff, your brain stuck in their head. It may not even be trackable in marketing. And I'm a marketing automation geek. I want to track everything. But there is dark social. There is dark marketing where you don't know the person was influenced by your podcast. So the 5th thing is underestimating the power of long form, long game content marketing like podcasts, because it definitely can drive business, just might not drive business episode 1 through 5.
I hear you. So what you're saying is that we do need to do that 3-hour long podcast, right?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have clients who push it, not quite 3 hours, but That's probably the most popular question we get from clients is how long should the podcast be?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like saying, how long is a movie? How long should a movie be? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we watch a Marvel movie for 2.5, 3 hours, but yet there's some commercials we wouldn't watch for 15 seconds. So,
Well,
it's about the content, right? I mean, there's some sitcoms that if you won't watch a sitcom, which is really only 20 minutes of content, then
mm-hmm.
evidently it wasn't very good. It wasn't funny. It didn't entertain you. So would you say 20 minutes is better than 3 hours? No, it depends on what the content is. Now, given that podcast, is still kind of new and still gaining its traction, and we're just now getting in numbers to show some trends and meanings.
Yeah.
One of the things I would say is 30 minutes is kind of a sweet spot. It's not in stone, but I would say that 30 minutes is where I would suggest if someone asked me today, and it could change later, but today I would say 30 minutes is about a sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Our clients' podcasts tend to go between 20 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a great conversation and you got it structured with a great guest and some great questions and it's full of value,
Yeah.
people will listen for 40 minutes, even an hour if you want. I've had one of my own go almost an hour, and it was with Guy Kawasaki. And
Mm-hmm.
Guy, one, it was funny, it was insightful. We were having a great conversation. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to end the conversation, so I figured the
Mm-hmm.
listeners may be enjoying this as much as well. And we almost split it into 2 episodes, but we were like, you know what? It's just rolling through. Let's just go with it. It was an hour-long episode, and we let it be that. I wouldn't advise it, but if it's going well, just let it roll.
Yep. I'm with you there. Cool. Let me think. I had a great follow-up question to that. So when we talk about podcasts, a lot of time, we realize that there's typically the audio, but a lot of companies or a lot of individuals are doing video as well. What is your take on which is better or when to use which, and even how
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of that runway, for somebody that's just getting into podcasting in general.
So when it comes to podcasting audio versus podcasting video, the answer for me is very simple. It's not an or, it's an and. So if
And
you start out doing podcast audio, then at some point you add on video. It's an and. It's not an or. The reason for that is when you add on video, you open your door to a whole other search engine, YouTube, for example,
mm-hmm.
which is the second largest search engine next to its owner, Google. So you open up your door to a lot more searchability. It splits your numbers. So if you're worried about your KPIs on your audio stream, you're going to split your numbers, but that should not be your goal. Your goal should be the
Yeah,
exposure, not the number on one platform.
nice.
So you will split your numbers, but you get a chance to not only show up on a separate large search engine, you also have an opportunity to create marketing content that you couldn't without the video. So
Yeah.
for our clients, if it's just audio, we're doing audiograms, audio snippets, highlights of their audio. But the
Mm-hmm.
moment they step into video, now we're talking Instagram, TikTok, YouTube shorts,
Oh, yeah.
video clips for LinkedIn. All those things are opened up when you do video. So
Mm-hmm.
I tell my clients there's 2 steps. The first step is we can capture some video without the intent of making the whole show. Let's just capture some clips so you can step into the video promotion part of your podcast, right? And
Nice.
then if you want to go full video to do the whole show, consider your cameras, consider the editing of the show. All those things matter. I've seen this show before, and you have a nice camera, you edit it. All those things are important. If your step into video podcasting looks like a recorded Zoom meeting, you're not ready yet. Don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you're willing to think about your microphone, your camera, the editing of your video, then you're ready to do podcasting from a video standpoint.
Awesome. Good deal. And
So
you
always
had
an and, not an or.
I like that. You had started going into promotion. You were talking about like TikTok and LinkedIn and all that good stuff. How do people, or I don't want to say what's the best, but I mean, how does one go about promoting, getting eyeballs, getting ears, on their shows? And even again,
First, you look
as you
to see.
started to,
Yeah.
what would someone expect, over time?
Well, if you have social media channels established, that's where you go first. If
Mhm.
if A, you have social media established and that social media channel is the one that your clients or your potential customers are on,
Yeah.
that's where you go first.
Mhm.
Now, for example, if you have a huge LinkedIn following, but you're selling a beauty product and you don't have an Instagram following, you got the wrong audience there. You got a great
Mhm.
following, but it doesn't match your audience. So you want to
Right.
make sure wherever your following is, you match your audience. I've seen cases where people launch and don't have any social, or they have the wrong social. Hey, we got
Mhm.
10,000 followers on LinkedIn and we sell makeup to teenagers. I was like, well, you need to be on TikTok and Instagram if you're going to do that. So
Yeah.
in that case, you may have to sprinkle in some paid in there to get into those channels that you don't have any audience in.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
from an organic standpoint, yeah, you create content for those channels first and don't try to do all the channels. Go deep on the one channel where most of your customers are going to be. Go deep on that. And then
Yeah.
the next step is to repurpose lightly across the rest of them.
Yeah.
Us, for example, we go deep on LinkedIn and we repurpose for the rest of them. I mean, LinkedIn's our first, YouTube's our second. The rest
Mhm.
of them we sprinkle lightly. In other words, we're not gonna not do something because it doesn't fit Instagram. We're gonna
Yeah.
do it for our primary channels, then repurpose it to fit the other channels. But we don't create anything for Instagram. It's not our
Mhm.
business model. We create
Mhm.
it for LinkedIn, for YouTube, and repurpose for the others. Now, if you're selling, like I said, makeup to teenagers, then you may start with Instagram or TikTok and figure out how to reformat for others. And there will be new things coming up. You should be right now thinking about how do I reformat it for maybe Mastodon or something? If Twitter goes away, you have to think about there will always be a new platform. And
Yeah.
so focus on your main first and then figure out how to repurpose for the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. So you talked about, I guess we talked about like outside the show, we talked about ROI, we talked about, B2B and that sort of thing. What kinds of things during a show, like in the format of the show, would help a business owner, a business leader, or a company, um, perhaps extend their brand, or what? Again, what should one expect, or what should one be going for?
I think something that's very valuable to a listener from a business standpoint is stories. And I don't mean it in the frou-frou way we all talk about markets, talking about stories. Stories from a business standpoint are case studies.
Mhm.
So you take that case study, which is a true story of what has happened, right? So
Mhm.
it's funny, I said stories first to kind of set it up, but really, if you take a case study, which is we know that term in business, it's cliche. We need a case study. And
Mhm.
those are what they show that you have done this thing and you did it well, or at least it shows your output from how you did it and what the results were.
Mhm.
Take that case study, tell the story of that case study. Why did it happen? How did it make people feel? What was the business results? What moved the needle? What did and did not work? Tell that story. If I'm listening to your podcast and I can relate to a story, or at least say, we're thinking about doing that thing too, I
Mhm.
want to hear how it turned out for them. Right.
Yeah.
So when you listen to a podcast and you go, you know what? They're doing something like what we're doing, but they're going to share their experiences with us. Maybe I can find or avoid some potholes by listening to their case study slash story. So I
Mhm.
think that's a key thing is case studies. Um, Another thing is just the individual story about where they've been, how they
Mhm.
evolved in their career or their job or their own personal case study.
Mhm.
um, I'm always interested in hearing people who've been where I've been, but now they're ahead of where I'm at. So I
Yeah.
can see,
Yeah.
okay, they're laying down the brick road. How do I follow that? So
Yeah.
stories, experiences, authentic things that gives a person, again, that fly on the wall experience of, wow, I'm lucky to be able to hear this. I'm so glad they shared this information with me
Yeah.
to listen to. That's the key right there.
Wow. Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Great stuff. I guess the one question I haven't asked is about your company. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. You're obviously an expert in your field. You had a great corporate background, and all that good stuff. What how did this start, and where's it grown to?
Well, it's interesting because it started almost unintentional. I mean, I had these parallel lives going for a long time. I was
Mm-hmm.
in the music industry. I was producing video and audio and was DJing and producing music.
Wow.
And by day, I'm going through databases, operating Salesforce and, responding even in earlier positions. I even responded to RFPs. So I'm writing, figuring out deals and helping this company land deals.
Mm-hmm.
So I was deep in marketing and sales by day and deep in creativity by night. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just a blessing that I was able to bring those two things together. Um, I come from a very entrepreneurial family, so it
Mm-hmm.
made sense to turn it into a business. I just never saw until about 2015 the opportunity to combine creativity with business because they were always kind of separate. I mean, I knew creative entrepreneurs and I knew business entrepreneurs. I was in the tech industry, so I knew tech entrepreneurs and I knew entertainment entrepreneurs, but they were very different people,
Mm-hmm.
very different industries. But for me, the spark was being able to bring those two things together. So now we can create. I can still play with audio and play with video, and teach our producers to edit and create audio. I still really enjoy hearing or seeing new things being created, new content being created. And it doesn't have to be music or music video. It can be a business video. It can be a talking head or a podcast. I
Mm-hmm.
still enjoy seeing those things come together for businesses. And then I can go a bit further and take off my creative hat and put on my nerd hat
Mm-hmm.
and figure, okay, how can we make this content convert? How do we
Yeah.
generate leads? How do we track the clicks of that participation? And I get a chance to geek out on analytics and marketing automation. And so putting those two things together is what really excites me and why Content Monsta is a thrill to me to operate because I get the chance to look at all those different areas and consult with clients and not just be an editing company. We're a marketing company. We're marketing consultants.
Mm-hmm.
And I love consulting on marketing as much as I like to see new content being created.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you guys have in your runway? Where are you looking to grow?
More podcasts and more video. We have clients who are slowly transitioning over to video, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So the audio podcasts are still going strong, and I don't think, again, like I said earlier, it's not a or. So I don't expect anybody to stop doing audio. Audio is still growing tremendously,
Mm-hmm.
and for some, audio is all they need to do. But it is interesting to see those who are heading into video, and we also, we coach them. In fact, me myself, I'm putting together a coaching package for executives to
Nice.
help them show up better on camera. I mean, the way you and I are showing up right now in this video there was thought put into that. Even when we first set up, you adjusted your camera, you have an actual camera, there's thought put into it. And I want to help executives stop just showing up with Zoom face as if it's going to look presentable. Where we are now in media and technology, there is no excuse for an executive to show up looking like he's on a Zoom meeting when he's supposed to be a professional executive. I want to fix that. So, we're launching coaching for that. If you want to reach out to me, if you're an executive or you have executives in your company who show up badly, then
Yeah.
send them to me so I can coach them on how to look better when they present, whether it be internally or to the world. They need to look better. So that's one of the things we're adding to Content Monster is executive coaching for content. Still growing podcasts, adding more and more video, more and more repurposing of content, and just consulting companies on how they can become media companies.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So I expect to see a commercial on Zoom Face. Is that
Yes, you will.
outstanding?
I need to patent that because because I'm really now when I see Zoom face, I'm like, come on, you're the CEO. I'm looking up your nose and it's grainy. Come on, you can do better than that. But they don't know any better. They think it doesn't matter. They
Hmm.
think that their perception is the same. And I've dug up research. People have researched audio and video and the perception that they've given. And turns out, even with just audio, people are perceived as being having more authority, more educated, and present better simply because their audio sounded better. They've been studies where they did,
Interesting.
A/B testing. Like they'll give bad audio versus good audio. They've done it with some mock court trials where the witness had good audio, witness had bad audio. They trusted the good audio witness every time. It's phenomenal how much perception is going on, how much judgment happens to the subconscious judgment of people who see you online and don't even realize they're judging you. I mean, if you want to test it, just look at the news. Turn on your favorite network news, whether it be MSNBC, Fox, CNN, whatever. Look at that split screen and tell me, the person that's showing up blurry with a bad angle, you judge them. You've already decided that they're not the most intelligent person on the screen, but they have no idea there's a difference. And I'm out to fix that. I'm really out to try to fix that for people. And so yeah, I mean that's what Content Monster is doing. My podcast is the business of marketing. So we talk about those things as well. We talk about the full gamut of marketing, from marketing automation to content creation. So that's my chance to talk to other experts, to learn, and to most of all share those experts. Like I said earlier, that fly on the wall. I want to give listeners a chance to be the fly on the wall of two experts talking about marketing and business. And that's what my podcast is for.
I love it. Hey, thank you. This has been fantastic. Do me a favor. Let our guests know, how they can reach you. Where are you?
Okay, great. Well, the easiest place is aleejudge.com. Either a.leejudge or aleejudge.com. That's my main website. The company is Content Monsta, Monsta, contentmonsta.com. And reach out to us there. Check out the podcast. It's called The Business of Marketing. If you're in marketing or business or both or sales, you'll get a lot of value from that podcast. So those are places to find me.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put all that information in your show notes. So anybody that's listening to the show, come on over to the website. You'll see the show notes. You'll see all that information listed there. Lee, thanks again. This has been absolutely fantastic. Enjoyed speaking to you. Look forward to doing it again. And folks, thanks for watching another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Thanks for watching another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. Please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next episode is going to drop. Don't forget, we're on podcasts as well, so you can catch us on your favorite podcasting platforms. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff.